So the show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And today I've got my guests here are Professor James Caldwell of the Humanities Department's Theater Program, Jennifer Mitchell Mayer, LCSW counselor with the Wellness Center Outreach Coordinator, Sam SAMHSA, or SAMHSA, Suicide Prevention Grant, and Bambo Kulabali, I don't know if I said that correctly, a student performer in this semester's theater production of Spring Awakening. And we're going to be talking about the upcoming show and the impact it'll have on the college community. Spring Awakening is a groundbreaking show that explores the tumultuous journey from adolescence to adulthood and explores many important issues, including sexual and familial violence, suicide, and other critically important issues that are relevant in today's world. So welcome, everybody. Bambu, did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, I think you did. Yeah.
Kulibali. Okay, Kulibali. So welcome. And we've talked a little bit about the format. I'd like my guests to talk a little bit about themselves before we get started. So why don't you all tell us a little bit about your backgrounds pre-LaGuardia? Who would like to go first?
Okay, James.
I guess I'll start. Thanks, Bombo. I'm originally James here. I'm originally from Indiana. I'm a New York resident now for about 20 years. I studied acting as an undergraduate and then worked quite a bit off Broadway, off Broadway in New York, performing, and then eventually studied playwriting at Columbia University, and that's where I received my MFA. I've been writing plays and screenplays ever since. I spend a great deal of time reading plays and seeing theater. It's both my passion and my work. And to be a little more specific, a lot of my acting training was in the Suzuki method and viewpoints method, which are extremely rigorous physical trainings that engage the body in a serious way. And I carry that discipline into my classrooms, but also my personal practice.
All right. Who would like to go next?
I guess I'll go next. Hello, my name is Bambo Kulibali, and I was born in New York. But I was raised in Africa, West Africa, which is Mali. So I was born in New York. When I was 6, I got sent to Africa to spend about 8 years. That's where I spent most of my childhood at. And I also attended to school, but I didn't attend to any art school. Well, we did one performance back in middle school in Africa and stuff like that. So yeah, I was raised in Africa, and I came back in 2016, which at the time I didn't speak English at the time, so I had to start, like from all the way at the bottom again. I had to relearn everything and stuff like that. And I attended when I came back. I had to go, to a 10th grade level because I did not grade back home in Africa. And yeah, at the time I did a couple of theater stuff, such as um, talent show. They did a show, but I wasn't really included. I was, doing backstage work and stuff like that. And then a couple of years later, I graduated when I was 16 years old because I had all my credits and I passed all my region at the time. It was kind of a privilege because everybody was looking down on me like, oh, you only 16, why are you, with us right now? I'm like, oh, because I have all my stuff. So yeah, and then I happened to come to LaGuardia at the time back in 2019. So I've been in LaGuardia since 2019. I started off as vet technology because I love animal, but then at the time I kind of realized that science is not my thing. I love math, but science and biology, like all this stuff, it kind of messed my head up. And I'm like, I love theater. And at the time, my parents still they're not supportive. Which I totally understand. At the time, my parents was like, "Oh, don't do theater. It's not good. You will never be successful and stuff like that." And I kind of get where they're coming from because they're like, they have like this mindset of like back home where they were born and raised. So I kind of understand where they're coming from. I understand, and yeah, I kind of just changed my major right before when the pandemic hit. Like literally back in 2020, I changed my major to theater. And then I was supposed to do an audition for some show, but then the pandemic hit and everything was online. So everything just kind of transferred to online. And it was kind of difficult because I'm like, I'm not having any experience at this time because everything was crazy. And yeah, man. Since that, and now I'm a LaGuardia student, being in a play called Spring Awakening. And yeah, you know, did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, a lot of questions. You even like kind
Oh,
of
I'm sorry.
jumped ahead a little bit, but that's okay. There's a lot there. But let's give Jennifer a
Gotcha.
chance to introduce herself.
Hugo, thank you so much for having me on today. So I'm one of the counselors in the Wellness Center. In my time before LaGuardia, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And so I've been a social worker in New York City for almost 25 years. I've worked in a lot of different settings with a variety of different issues related to foster care, immigration, students who are homeless and temporary housing. I've done a mix of direct service, but I've also done a lot of policy level work across the city. Um, Before that, originally from Washington, D.C. And I should say when I was younger, I actually did a lot of theater, and I still to this day, I love, love, love theater and the arts in all ways, shapes, and forms. I'm so passionate about just how it can be such an incredible vehicle for showcasing issues that are really important. So I have to say it's been really an incredible honor and privilege to get to partner a little bit with the team, the theater department with Spring Awakening.
One question I was going to ask you is SAMHSA is short
Yes,
for what?
so SAMHSA, so that is a federally funded suicide prevention grant that we have here at the Wellness Center. So that is, like I said, it's a federal funding stream that relates to suicide prevention and mental health. And so it's been an incredible opportunity for us to expand our suicide prevention and mental health awareness work across LaGuardia.
And tell me if I'm wrong. Is it not the case that, the early college years are some of the most dangerous years for students who might consider suicide as an option?
Definitely. Yeah, 1,000%, Hugo, you're right. Definitely that tumultuous transition of adolescence to young adulthood, that's definitely where we see for sure a spike in mental health and suicidality. And I would also add, you're layering on another piece in addition to that being historically a very tumultuous time. You're also adding the piece that we're still coming out of the pandemic, and so just kind of having that extra layer of grief and loss and social isolation, violence, inflation, economic turmoil, you're adding all of these other pieces. And so that's kind of all led to, on top of this already being kind of a challenging time, where, right now we're completely in a mental health crisis. I was actually just reading President Biden's at his State of the Union, he was actually saying that kind of where we are right now, there's actually been a 51% rise in emergency room visits for adolescent girls who have attempted suicide, which is completely staggering. And we're also seeing nationally 2 out of 5 adults are reporting that they're experiencing depression and anxiety. So I would say layering all of that on top of that, it's really sort of this perfect storm of giving rise to a really striking mental health crisis across the city and across the country.
All right. So let's talk about you've all kind of hinted already or talked a little bit about what you do at the college, but maybe we just go a little more in depth. We can stay with you, Jennifer. So I see that you're a counselor, but you're also the outreach coordinator. So are you funded from externally, or are you you like an employee of the college and just one of the regular counselors there at the wellness center?
Yeah, so I would say probably like a lot of people across LaGuardia, I wear a couple different hats. Through one funding stream, I work as a counselor and I have a caseload of students. I run a group supervision for some of our other counselors on staff, and I also run some different groups. So I sort of, through that stream, I'm doing the counseling and clinical side of the work. And through the SAMHSA funding, together with my colleagues, I'm able to support our outreach work around suicide prevention and mental health training. So what that's looked like, we've been able to really, through this grant, we've been able to really expand doing different trainings for students, for different groups, for faculty. We're doing some like mental health 101 training, some de-escalation. So it's really been an opportunity to kind of expand our outreach sort of across the college. So I'm sort of in both of those roles.
Right. And James, this is your first year at the college, right? You were hired as one of the with this funding that was brought in to hire full-time faculty, and you're a full-time lecturer in the theater program. What is Stephanie Sertich, the director of your program, who's a real go-getter, got you doing in your role there?
I feel like Stephanie and everyone else, specifically in our program and in the humanities department as well, have been incredibly supportive of me in my role just as a first semester lecturer. I have been given a lot of freedom just to focus on my classes at the moment and getting those all up and running, learning the student body, learning the day by day operations. As far as like extra roles, not too much has been given to me, and I'm thankful for that. Now, next semester, that's definitely going to change because I will be stepping into the role of director for the spring production. So that will be a pretty major leap, but one that I already feel like I'm being supported for.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's this one sound that's I keep hearing, and I don't know whether it's Jen's mic or you have no choice but to keep yours on, but I don't know. And I don't know if Chris is picking that up. But to get back to it, yeah. So it's very typical. What you're talking about is that we usually, in the tenure and promotion process, and as a lecturer as well, your main focus is always teaching. So, but hold on, things are coming. And I guess we'll talk about your role in the production in a second though, because you have taken that on. So Bombo, it's not unusual as a LaGuardia student. I mean, there's a lot of things about you that when I heard you talking, for example, the transnationalism that's what we call it when you're here and then you go back to where your family's country of origin. Sometimes it happens like in the Dominican population where people go like and spend 6 months a year, which makes it incredibly difficult to math because now you're working with two languages. Mali, do they speak French in Mali? Is Mali like a former French colony?
Most like everybody, like the most base language is Bambara, but a lot of people speak French. I understand it, but I speak a little. But yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a former French colony. So that's kind of typical of our LaGuardia students. The fact that you changed your major is also typical. Most of our students change their majors about 6 times before they leave here, believe it or not. Yeah, James is like horrified by that. But it's different. Part of that is, and by the way, the major they leave with is typically the one they started with. And that's not unusual. I mean, I did it when I was in community college as well. So there's nothing. But the fact that you found theater, how did you start taking theater classes? I mean, what was the first one? Did you take it as like a pathways elective and then got hooked?
When I was in 11th grade back in high school, it was this guy. He came in. He was like, "Oh, I need some student to film some stuff, or doing interviews and stuff like that about maybe a background." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "So which one do you choose, interview or a film?" I'm like, "Let's do a film." I want to know these things because when I was a kid, I was like, I love being in front of camera, but never thought of it never came up in my mind being an actor. So I'm like, let's do a film. So at that time, we were doing film and I was in front of camera, and then the time when I become a character in front of the camera, like by the time they say action, it's like I become a completely different person. I don't become like the real me is gone. So I just become somebody else. And then when they say cut, I just happen to look around and it's like it just feels so different, And at the time, like, wow, like acting is really amazing. I get to be in somebody else's shoes. I get to feel what they feel at the time. And that's like back in 11th grade, I'm like, oh, so maybe I could be an actor. That could be my side job. And then when I came to college, I was like I said, vet technology. It's not. I love animals. Like I still do love animals. But then there's like so many scientific words, with chemistry, biology, and I'm like, I can't do this stuff. Math, I'm good with math, but science, I can't do this. And I'm like, even changing my major to theater, my parents was like, don't do that. Keep doing it. Even if you fail. I'm like, but I'm just gonna be wasting money. I'm gonna be wasting my time. So yeah, at that time, I'm like, yeah, I have to change it, whether they like it or not. I'm gonna have to need to change something that I like, that I love doing the most. That I find you know, something that I love doing the most in my life. And from that time back in 11th grade, I love acting. So when I went to 12th grade, we always used to do a talent show, like I think every 3 months, and I always used to perform. It's either rapping, or singing, or acting. I always used to perform those type of stuff. And at the time, I found it like really joyful to do these type of stuff. Anything that's related to theater, the art industry. Like I loved it. So yeah, that's how it all started.
So you just showed up in the humanities office and said, "I want to change my
Yeah,
major
yeah.
to theater."
And the funny thing is, I actually spoke to Stephanie, who is our now director for the play. Right before the pandemic hit, I went to her office. I'm like, hey, Stephanie, would you please just speak with my parents about this whole theater stuff, because they're not really supportive. And at the time, I was 17. I was really young, and I was still figuring out like what I wanted to do. Like how. What would they think of me? So I went to Stephanie. She's like, "Yeah, let's set an appointment. So we would tell your parents to come over, and then they can just meet with me, and I can just talk to them." But at the time, that's when pandemic hit, so everything was just confusing. Everything was online. And I'm like, oh well, I have no other option but do it online until whatever happens. So yeah, this is how it all happens. And back home as well, we used to always have like this like a very low quality camera and just do a lot of comedy stuff, like a lot of comedy stuff. And yeah, man, I really find it joyful and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that the production that you were talking about when the pandemic hit was The
yeah.
Wiz. I know that because I was going to push in. I wanted to get College Now classes from all the high schools we work with to come for a special, uh, you know, whatever. What do we call it? Matinee. When it's during the day. I tried to do that for this play, but we couldn't make it happen. But the fact that one of the things we should point out, and people know this about the theater program, is that theater program only has so much funding. So they can only do a musical once every 2 years because of the cost of this. I mean, they're pushing in. Maybe James, you know this. That you're pushing in like a lot of professional musicians, right, for the music, and it's just musicals cost more money, right?
Yes, here and everywhere. I mean, if you just go to look at some of the operating costs of shows on Broadway, I mean, musicals have choruses too, so more actors. And if you're producing it at a college level, you not only have to pay for the rights of the book, you have to pay for the rights of the music. Yeah, there are more people that need to be involved. Choreographer, there's just more going on.
Okay, so let's talk about the play. Let's move into the meat of today's show. And I guess the question was, when you came on, James, had Stephanie already chosen this as the production for the year? And did she talk a little bit about the thinking behind that? Or was this something that you got together with, you all got together and decided on doing it?
When I first came in, there was still some question as to what the exact show was going to be. The rights they had applied for the rights of Spring Awakening, but they were waiting to hear back from the licensing company as to whether or not they were going to come through. So there was actually a couple shows that were still in indecision or were a possibility to be performed, but this was number one, and luckily everything turned out all right with it. I did not have a part in the decision making process, but I do know that this is a show that Stephanie has had her eye on for quite some time.
All right. And when did now get Jennifer back into this? when did you folks decide that part of the process had to include bringing in the wellness center?
I mean, that was
James.
I'm thinking back, but I think we had a conversation about how are we going to collaborate with other parts of the school on the show. And I think one of the first thing that came up was like there needs to be some sort of talk with the students about the serious issues. Like if we're going to stage the show that breaches such serious topics, we have to give the students an opportunity to talk about them, ask questions about them that goes beyond just what happens in the show. So they just don't leave with all that stuff bottled inside of them, but that there might be an opportunity for them to express how it makes them feel. And that led us to involve the Wellness Center.
All right. So Jennifer, were you approached, or did they approach someone and then you were chosen to work with them, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I think what's really incredible about Spring Awakening is that it touches on many really powerful themes. There's depression, abandonment, sexual assault, suicide. There's a lot of really, really heavy and strong themes that come up throughout the show. And so exactly what he was saying, like it was a great opportunity for us to say, because the show is showcasing these really intense issues, this would be a really great opportunity to be able to kind of talk about some of these things in a way. And so the wonderful director, Stephanie, had sort of reached out to the Wellness Center to kind of start this conversation. Again, because the show touches on these issues, what can that look like and how can we address this in a creative way? And I would say, again, one of the big issues that I would really lift up is that the show deals with suicide. And so kind of as we mentioned before, right, I'm leading our SAMHSA suicide prevention grant now across the campus. And so we thought, this is a great place to kind of, again, use these powerful themes of the show and use this sort of as an opportunity to think about how do we have a conversation about this. Because I think, right, when we think about mental health and we think about suicide, right, these are things that can also be really, really hard to talk about. And again, through our SAMHSA suicide prevention grant, right, this is an opportunity to kind of think really creatively, how do we, across all of our students and our faculty and across the campus, how do we have these conversations about mental health and about suicide and about depression? How do we have this, in a creative way and in a real and engaging way? And so we thought, this brings to like kind of a really natural connection point. So one of the things we did, I had an opportunity to meet the incredibly talented cast and crew, and actually got to see a little bit of the rehearsals. I was truly blown away, just how incredibly talented the cast was and how they were, so connected with, with this show. And so we started out, we were able to have a great conversation together around, what does it mean to perform in a show, again, that illustrates such really, really powerful issues, some of which, some of us may have personal connections to. They may trigger different feelings. Again, I think there's something so visceral about performing these issues that touch on these really heavy topics. So we were able to have kind of some of these conversations together, and then planning even what does that look like on the day of the show. And so we were sort of brainstorming, what can it look like to even have, maybe some of our counselors outside of at the performance, to kind of be outside in the lobby, have, some different materials, some different counseling resources, because really looking again at, because the show is lifting up these important issues, how can we use that for people that may realize this might be an opportunity to want to talk about these things a little bit more or to seek out counseling.
All right. I want to get, and I'm interested because I want to get Bombo involved in this as far as what his experience has been with working, with this material as an actor, but also as a student. But before we take we're going to do a quick station ID. I would just ask the question. I'm going to ask Bombo. This is a kind of an assessment. 25 words or less. What is this play about?
So let's just say that a bunch of teenagers, they actually hitting puberty now, and they're finding out about their sexuality, who they are, who they like, and which end up in real tragedy at the end for some of the characters. Yeah.
and my understanding is that the play does not take
Germany.
place in like contemporary. It takes place in Germany, and before this is before World War One. Am I getting
Oh,
this
yeah.
right, James?
Yes, it was before World War One. Yeah.
1891 is when Franz Wendekind wrote the original.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Frank.
And was it written as a
No,
musical?
play.
Okay, so it's first a play written in Germany, 1891, and who turned it into the musical?
I think Frank. Yeah, back
The
in
credits.
after like later on in 1906, that's when he first performed, and I believe.
We need a dramaturg here,
It
don't
wasn't a musical until the 2000s, and
I was going to say, I was just wondering. I'm guessing that that's the case. It's not unusual either for people to do that, right? But let's just take a station break, and we'll be able to start fresh. So it's 1:29. The show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio, and my guest today. I'm going to start. I'm going to pull this thing up. Sorry, Professor James Caldwell of the Humanities Department's Theater Program, Jennifer Mitchell-Mayer, LCSW counselor, the Wellness Center Outreach Coordinator, and SAMHS SAMHSA, and Bambu Kulabali, who's a student performer in this semester's theater production of Spring Awakening. We're talking about the upcoming show and the impact that it'll have on the college community. And just again to say that Spring Awakening is a groundbreaking show that explores the tumultuous journey from adolescence to adulthood and explores many important issues, including sexual and familial violence, suicide, and other critically important issues that are relevant in today's world. So, Bumba, you're in this show. Bambo. I'm like scanning this thing. Mambo, you're in the show, and what are your thoughts about the play itself and some of the subjects it's touching on? I mean, as a performer.
Right. Well, basically, the play itself is really heavy, in terms of abuse and violence and all the suicide. Like, it's very heavy. And as an actor, I play like 5 different characters, and me putting myself in all those 5 characters is really hard. It's really hard in terms of me being an abusive parents in a play and stuff like that. And me myself, people go through stuff in life in the past. People go through stuff. So I kind of relate to like some of the stuff that's going on in the play. It's heavy, and even like me and all of my co-stars who were performing the play, we very passionate doing the play, and it is a heavy subject to work on. Even now as we're working on the play, it's like every day when we rehearsing the play, it's still a heavy feelings that we have. But yeah.
And so, have you participated in some of these activities with the Wellness Center?
Wait, what's that?
Well, with Jennifer, have you been participating in some of those activities?
With Jennifer, yes. I remember she came to one of our rehearsals. She spoke to us about the awareness about the like whatever takes place in the play. She spoke to us, set us down, and which was really helpful. Because that was the beginning of the play and the rehearsal. And I was really feeling some type of way at the time. Like, I don't know if I could do this, man. This is really heavy. It's taking like a lot of toes out of me. Like, it brings back a lot of memories and stuff like that. But since Jennifer came in and spoke to us and stuff like that, it really helped me to calm myself down. That okay, I'm doing a play. I understand what it's about. And I understand the feeling. And I do know what I'm putting myself into. So she kind of spoke to us through that feeling and stuff like that, which was really helpful. And now that's why I'm.
So you identify with some of the things that the characters are experiencing in the play.
Yes, some of the characters.
Yes. James, so how many actors are in the show? In total, how many?
I think 17. Papa might know the answer to this question better than I do.
Well, because this idea of playing multiple parts.
Oh yes. Well, I know that in the original production, there's a group of adolescents in the play, and then various adult figures. In the original production, at the Atlantic Theater, which then transferred to Broadway in 2006, all of the older adult female roles were played by one actress. all of the older male roles were all played by one actor. So we saw these people doubling with 10 roles apiece. For this particular production, Stephanie has, I would say, gratefully divided those for the students, so we don't have one student having to embody 11 different roles, which is, a strong ask for any actor, let alone a younger one.
Right. I mean, it's and sometimes, because sometimes in playwriting, it's deliberate, right? It's deliberate that an actor plays multiple roles for whatever kinds of, maybe to get the audience to see the corollaries between the characters.
And I definitely think that was the idea behind the writing and the casting of the original one. If you see the same adult playing all the roles, then you start to see some similarities between all of the adults and how they treat the younger group of people. And I think that's really present in the show. There's a stark contrast between the beliefs and ideals of each of these groups. We see some people grasping for truth and living with questions, and then a different group, the older group, who has decided all of these answers, which then they impose upon the other group of people and expect them to live by. Yeah.
Sounds like Bamba. Does it remind you of your parents a little bit? This idea that they're afraid of their son trying to make a living as a creative artist or an actor.
Yeah. I mean, I really understand where they're coming from. They're afraid that how will I be able to make money as an actor? Because there's a lot of people who want to be an actor in the art industry and they don't make it. And I understand where they're coming from. And so their mindset, like this is how they were raised. Like, so only you got to be a doctor, a lawyer, because these jobs have like a lot of money and stuff like that. And I understand, which I agree. They do make a lot of money. But and I told them, I love doing acting. Theater is one of my passions. Like I love doing this stuff. And then they kind of I haven't spoke about them with acting for like a very long time, but they kind of giving me like a little bit of chance, like see how it might goes, because I was never raised with my parents until like 2016 when I came, and that's when I came to live with them. But like back home, I was kind of just living with my grandparents. They were old, very old at the time, so I was just hanging out with my friends like all day. I didn't care about nothing. But yeah, I understand where my parents are coming from though when they said they don't want me to be an actor, but I will make it though.
Okay. So, Jennifer, you're working with the students here, and obviously the cast, and you're going to be dealing with students who see the show. Are you going to work at all with the faculty and staff as far as the ones who see the show, or that are encouraging students to see it, and maybe dealing with students who've seen the show?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've been thinking about creatively a lot of different ways that we can connect with students and with faculty. This happens in a lot of different ways. I would say sort of across the campus. Again, we've been doing a series of different trainings, different mental health trainings, suicide prevention trainings, sort of across different faculty groups. I actually recently met with the student advisory, the student advisors the other day, and we work with a lot of different programs and departments. And so specifically here with this show, one of the things that we're going to be doing is sort of outside of all the performances. So before the show, during intermission, and then after at the end, we're going to have a table outside of the theater that has various resources that people can connect with. So if for anyone who sees the show, if they're a student at LaGuardia, we'll have tons of information how they can connect to the Wellness Center, which has tons of free counseling, as you know, for all of our LaGuardia students. And just to speak to that very briefly, for every student in LaGuardia, they are eligible to connect with us at the Wellness Center. We can have up to 12 sessions for the year. All of our services, they're all free. They're all confidential. We can meet in person. We can meet over remotely. We can also help connect students to different types of services if they need things that are, that are outside of the Wellness Center. We're also here for crisis. So we're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have extended later hours on Thursday. And we always, when we're here, we have counselors who are on call for crisis. So if there's ever anything that comes up immediately for a student or for staff, or someone needs to speak to someone right away, we're always available for crisis. But additionally, we know, because this is going to be an incredible show, and we're going to have, I'm sure they're going to have lots of audience members, even, outside LaGuardia, from family members and faculty and other people in the community. So we will also be sharing counseling resources for people that may want some additional support but are not part of LaGuardia. We'll have kind of that information that we can share as well.
So it's a real conversation starter. But we should say, we've talked about like a lot of the heavy stuff. But this is entertainment, right, James? I mean, this is gonna be, we got music, we got a bunch of young kids, being young students, being young people. I mean, is this a I mean, I know, it's interesting. I teach, and James knows this because we're trying to get him to teach us now. I teach the first year seminar for this cohort, which is supposed to be like theater and photography, and it used to also be industrial designers. I got one of those right now, but the first time I taught it, I got somebody else's syllabus, and it says like, talk about the objectives, and I forgot what the other phrase was, learning outcomes, whatever it is, of theater and photography. And I'd asked, I finally figured out it's the PLOs, which the programmatic learning outcomes is what we call it, things that a student will learn in each major. But before I figured that out, I got into this thing about, so what is theater for, right? And James is over here, and I talked about Aristotle, right, who wrote about theater in ancient Greece. But the joke is that one entire book is gone, the comedies. There's no writings, right? There's no writings from Aristotle about the purpose of comedy, which we talked about, but we talked about the purpose of tragedy, which is, James, what's the purpose of tragedy, right?
The purgation. It's the purgation of fear and pity. To have that.
Help me out. Purgation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Aristotle wrote, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never read it, but I do know that there's the word catharsis, right?
Yeah, catharsis.
And I thought that was the whole point of tragedy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what this one guy wrote, right, way back when. And I think there is some weight to that experience of, we go and see shows that and experience the fear and pity of those characters, and let go of them. And because we experience it through another character's journey, maybe we don't have to experience it ourselves. Maybe we learn from the choices and decisions that they make. But to just take a few steps back, you were talking about entertainment. Is this entertaining? And I think the answer is yes. On a couple different levels. I think that the music is outstanding. It is the kind of music that gets into your body and sticks around with you for days in terms of being catchy. But also talking about entertainment, I think there are different kinds of entertainment, right? I think there's the kind of entertainment that I really like at the end of the day, which is like, I can turn this on and shut down. I don't have to think. But then there's the type of entertainment that makes us think a little bit more about what our role is in this world, what our role possibly can be. And I think the best types of entertainment, and I would include Spring Awakening in this group, is plays that ask us to step outside of what's happening with the characters in terms of their own personal dramas, and ask about, like, well, what choice would I make in those situations? Like, what possible way can I apply this to my own life? And throughout history, theater is filled with people making terrible decisions and experiencing lots of trauma. The best types of theater, again, will ask us to step outside and say, okay, well, what do I do with this? How do I react to this? And if you see Spring Awakening, I think you'll have I think he might have some experience like that.
All right. Yeah, another one of my lives. I actually was on the board of some sort of downtown theater company, and the woman who directed it used to say, you go see Antigone, right? This play, Antigone. Help me out. That's Sophocles.
Yes, that's part 2 of
Sophocles.
the Oedipus trilogy.
Yes, the trilogy. And everybody identifies with Antigone, who's this woman who stands up for her father, the memory of her father, and pays the ultimate price. Nobody identifies with Creon, who's the adult who refuses to bend, and as a result loses his son's life. And so it'll be interesting. It's interesting to see, because I'm older now. I would have identified with Antigone if I saw it the first time, but I'm an old guy now, so I know there's a little bit of Creon in everybody.
Yeah, people don't identify with both, and
Right.
And I think that this will be a really interesting show for adults to see, right? Because it's very much centered on the experience of the youth, and probably asks us as faculty members and just adults in our everyday life, like, what are the needs of our students? Are we open to what their needs might be? Because they're probably different from what we think they are.
Yeah. Okay, so we're down to the last quarter hour. I'm looking on the stream chat there. I don't know if anybody's we've got some people watching, but we don't have any questions. So we can use this opportunity to either talk about anything we feel like we haven't talked about yet, as far as the production or the activities surrounding it, or we can talk about the future. Everybody, future activities that either, for example, that Bombo, where you're going to be moving on to after you graduate from here, or James, as far as future productions, like you were talking about the productions for next season, and or Jennifer, some of the activities that the Wellness Center is going to be involved with. So we've got a little bit of time. We've got about 10 minutes. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I'll go. So yeah, after this play, Spring Awakening, or after I graduate from LaGuardia, I'm really looking forward to go to a 4-year college, in terms of maybe like NY, or Brooklyn College, anywhere that they, like maybe somewhere that they have good, that gave me a good opportunity in order to be an actor, to get ready to be an actor, to be in the field out there. LaGuardia is a good opportunity right now. So yeah, that's my next step. Hopefully, that's literally my next step. You know, being out there, working, being in the industry, getting ready to step out there. That's my next step. If that makes sense.
Yeah, if I was a good first year seminar student, I would tell you who our articulation agreement is with, which I want to say City College, but that's just off the top of my head. And if you want to find out, you go to articulation agreement. You can find out by looking it up, and it'll show you what classes transfer seamlessly into that next class. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
James, you want to talk about next season?
I'm directing a play next season. I like musicals. Some of the musicals I love, but I get really excited about directing plays. I think because of my master's was heavily focused on plays and playwriting. I can't tell you what that's going to be because we're waiting to see if we can get the rights. But I will tell you that I'm super excited. It's a wild play. It's like nothing I've ever attempted to direct, and I would be super excited to have it be my inaugural production here at the school.
All right. Well, cross our fingers. Jennifer, what's happening at the Wellness Center as we move forward in beyond Spring Awakening?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say I'm definitely really excited to see Spring Awakening. I would encourage everyone who's listening to go watch it. There's such an incredibly talented cast. So I'm actually really excited to see the full show and looking forward to future more collabs with the theater department. And with the Wellness Center, I would say, our doors we're open, we're here, we're excited to continue serving students. For any student that's even thinking, or if you just thinking about counseling, or you just feel like it might be nice to have someone to talk to, We are here and we're happy to say that, again, we're able to really serve students in real time. If you come in, just set up for an intake, we can see you, right away and get you started with counseling. For all of our amazing fellow faculty and staff across the campus, we're looking forward to continuing to do different outreach events and trainings. So for any staff or faculty that's interested in any kind of mental health or suicide prevention workshop or training, sometimes we go into classrooms and do little presentations. So we're always available for that, and looking forward to continuing to do that. I would also add, in addition to sort of the outreach and the individual counseling, we're also offering a variety of different groups and workshops. So actually at this exact time on Wednesdays at 1, in room C412, we actually are offering an existential crisis circle. That's together with Dima Bayraktar from the Women's Center, Sherry Carr and Vera Albrecht from the Philosophy Department. So we've created this fantastic collaboration with the Wellness Center, Women's Center, and Philosophy Department to have a space where students can come together, like I said, every Wednesday in person and sort of talk about some different things that are going on and happening in the world. So I would just offer that as well for anyone who wants to come by. So there's a lot of different places and spaces that that people can connect with us.
And I like this thing about you working with faculty. I'll give you another anecdote about, I once observed a film class where they showed Do the Right Thing. And I don't know if you know the film, but it deals with a lot of heavy issues about, urban, particularly New York, but just urban America. And it was late, it's long, and when people started talking about it, things got out of hand fast. And I said, you've got to have a therapist in this room for, the post discussion. And I think it's great that theater folks are, bring the center in, because it's what we call a teachable moment, right? All these, we're not going to ignore the fact of all the struggles our students are going through. We're gonna meet them head on and talk about, decision making, as James said, in theater.
Yeah,
Through theater.
I think if I may, I think it's so valuable to partner with the Wellness Center on this sort of show, and really any sort of show where it involves such serious topics as the one as Spring Awakening, as abuse, sexuality, suicide. In the past, and I can say this from experience, as a student, when I was in a show that dealt with those sorts of issues, and it may have impacted us personally on any level, we were expected to use it, whatever that's supposed to mean. Like, to take whatever inner turmoil we might be feeling and translate it into a role, regardless of what impact that might have in the long term. I think it's ridiculous to think that everyone should just be able to handle sitting with these issues on a day-to-day basis when they're this heavy. And so bringing the Wellness Center both in for the audience and for the actors, I think is not only important, but should be requisite, should be required in the future.
So what have we got about 3 minutes. Thank yous. Anybody folks want to thank before we finish the show?
Yes, I would like to thank the chat, and one thing I will tell you guys to come see the show, even you. Is your name Hugo?
Yeah, Hugo Fernandez. I've got tickets for the matinee on the Friday. A bunch of us from Humanities are getting together, and then we're going to go critical drinking afterwards, I think, at Brooks. Excuse me?
You guys going to come see the play?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to go see the play. And plus, I'm all of my students in all of my classes, I always, for example, these first-year seminars are encouraged to go with extra credit. So they got to prove they were there, but
It's a good thing that they come to see the show because the show relates to not only teenagers but adults. Who people who are trying to figure out who they are and what they do or where they come from. It's okay. We're still growing in a way. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that people are gonna come and see the show, especially adults as well. So yeah.
Yeah, Bomba, I got news for you, man. I'm still trying to figure out who I am.
Right there. Hey, come stick it.
At
It's okay.
60. James?
I would like to
Any thank
thank
yous?
you for having us, and thank you, Stephanie, for allowing me to be involved in this way, and thank you, Jennifer, for all of your wisdom and experience that you're giving to this production.
Yes.
Jennifer?
Thank you.
Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to say, first of all, thank you, Hugo, for bringing all of us onto the show and just giving us a space to talk about these really important issues together. Huge thank you to the director, Stephanie, JR, and Bembo, and the entire cast and crew of Spring Awakening. They are so incredibly talented. So definitely really thankful and appreciative to have this partnership, and so excited to be able to see the performance. And finally, I want to say a thank you to all of my amazing colleagues at the Wellness Center. I feel very grateful to work with such an incredible team of clinicians, and under the leadership of our director, Frank Latera Bellino, and our assistant director, Regina Veron Mignano. It's just, we have such an incredible team. So definitely appreciative and looking forward to continuing to partner with our amazing students and faculty.
Yes, and I would also recommend get your tickets. They're going fast. I think the Saturday show is already sold out. So it's the dates are November 10th through the 12th. What is it? And
Yes.
So I would just say, I think certain, like for example, the dress rehearsal is sold out, and Saturday is sold out. So get your tickets, folks, to check it out. I just want to thank my guests for being on here, and thank Stephanie, of course, for all the work she does. Hardest working woman in show business.
Yeah,
So the show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And today my guest has been Professor James Caldwell of the Humanities Department's Theater Program, Jennifer Mitchell-Mayer, LCSW Counselor, the Wellness Center Outreach Coordinator, and SAMHSA SAMHSA Suicide Prevention Grant, Bambo Coulibaly, our student performer in this semester's theater production of Spring Awakening. We've been talking about the upcoming show, the impact it's going to have on the college community. And just to remind you, Spring Awakening is a groundbreaking show that explores the tumultuous journey from adolescence to adulthood and explores many important issues, including sexual and familial violence, suicide, and other critically important issues that are relevant in today's world. So we started the show today with a performance from the Tonys when Spring Awakening was nominated. I'm guessing it also won. Am I correct,
Oh
James?
yeah,
It won some
Yes.
Tonys, and we'll close with a performance of it as well. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and Mr. Pope, please take us out.